We're discussing the flower buds of a caper bush. If you're allowed to eat them, if the tree is not yet 3 years old. The Gemara before brought Mar Baravashi that actually did eat them. And the explanation was because he was being lenient, according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, that they're not considered a fruit, and hence they are permissible outside the land of Israel, even if the tree is within its first 3 years. The Gemara now asks, even if it's not a fruit, but ותיפוק, let us learn it out, דנעשה שומר לפרי, that it's the protection for the fruit. ורחמנא אמר, and the merciful one says, which means God says in the Torah, ואורלת מרלסה יספיריה, you should count it as orla, its fruit. Now the word es can sometimes in the Torah mean with. Where does it say that? Es Yaakov. That they came with Yaakov, and etc. There's hundreds of examples of that. So S can mean with. Now, many times it doesn't mean with. It means it's just like the beginning of a proper noun. So here we're going to use it in that other context, and we're going to say that it's actually including something. And what is it including? S, the word S in quotations, is including hatafa lepirya, something which is secondary to the fruit. The Gemara does this in Sukkah when it's discussing the hair needs to be immersed in the mikveh. It says you have to put es besarai, the flesh, the person's body needs to go into the mikveh, and it says es, so it says, oh, that's coming in. It's coming to include also the hair. So here it says es is coming to include what's secondary to the fruit. What is secondary to the fruit? That's the Gemara's question. Umay niu, what is that, or what is it that's secondary? Shomer laperi, something that's a protection for the fruit. Now, since the caper flower, called the kafrisin, is a protection for the fruit at an early stage, so it should be usher because of a protection for the fruit, even though it's not the main fruit. So it should have the prohibition of arla. How could Mar Baravashi go ahead and eat it, even though it's outside the land of Israel? That's our question. So the questions are in yellow, except for that red pasuk. The answers are in green. Amar Rava, Rava gives an answer. Heicha amrinan, where do we say Dna'asa shomer laperi, that it's a protection for the fruit? Heicha de'isei, where it is there. Let's make that into a comma. Bein betolish, bein b'mechuber, whether it's detached. Tolish is detached. Bein b'mechuber, whether it's attached. It's too thick. Okay, mechuber is like the word chaver, like a friend. So when it's attached, that's when it's going to be a protection for the fruit. When it's on the fruit, when it's isei, when it's there, whether the fruit is attached to the tree or whether the fruit is off the tree. However, hacha here, by the caper flower, by the flower bud, by the kafrisin, b'mechuber isei, when it's attached, it is there. But betolish lesei, when it's detached, when the fruit is off the tree, the flower is not on the fruit, and therefore it's not considered a protection. Something that's only on the fruit at its early stages. Esvei Abaya, this is a question, it's in yellow. Abaya asked a question on this. How could you tell me that something that's not on the fruit the entire time is not considered a protection for the fruit, and hence will not have the prohibition of Arla? Abaya asks the question to Rava. Esvei is when I know who's asking it, and I know who it's being asked to. And this question is posed like this. Pitma shel rima, in the top of a pomegranate, mitzdarefes, pitma is like the crown on the pomegranate. Mitzdarefes combines to the pomegranate to be a shear. Mitzdaref means it combines to be a shear that will contract tumah. How big does the food need to be to contract tumah, to make something tummy? It needs to be the size of an egg. V'hanetz shaloi, what about the blossom of the pomegranate? Now the nates is not the hairs that grow on the pomegranate on the top, but there's some sort of this cover that grows over the pomegranate, and it protects the top of the pomegranate. So it says, ein mitzdaref. The nates is not mitzdaref. In other words, if I have a piece of the pomegranate, it's not the size of an egg. But if I'll add the nates to it, it will be the size of an egg. It doesn't matter. It's not large enough to become tummy. Now, mi de ka'amar. Mi de ka'amar means from the fact that it says, and I'll put this in quotes, hanetz shelo ein mitzdaref, that the top of the pomegranate, not the top, nates is like a flower or petals or something on top of the pomegranate. Maybe it's translated as a bud. The bud that's on top of the pomegranate is not mitzdaref. Alma I see. Delav oichelhu, that it's not a food. Because if it would be a food, then it would be tamei, it would contract tuma automatically. So from the fact that I can't use it to contract tuma, that means that it's not a food. Utinan, this is actually supposed to be a nun there. It's written in short. The old printers used to do that often. Utinan gabi arla, and it's taught in a Mishnah regarding arla. Klipe rimain, the husk or the peel of a pomegranate. V'hanetz shalai, and the bud of the pomegranate. Klipe agoyz, and peel of a nut. V'hagarinim, and the kernels, which is the nut themselves. Chayavin ba'arla, they are chayav in arla. Now this is a big problem. I don't want to put a question mark as if chayavim ba'arla, as if you have to read it as a question. You don't. You read it as chayavim ba'arla. They're chayav in arla. But what I see from this is that the nates, which is not a food, is chayav in arla. Let's underline this nates, because this is the big deal. The nates. The nates is chayav in arla. Now I want to compare. Let me do a little erasing, and I hope these great people will forgive me. I just need to show what we're doing here. Okay. Now let's write this in. Let's do. I'm comparing kafrisin. Kafrisin, which is a caper. And I'm comparing it to the nates shel rimain of a pomegranate. A pomegranate. This is the nates of the pomegranate, and this is the flower bud. But what we're saying is that this, the kafrisin, is not arla, and the nates is yes arla. That's our question. That's Abaya's question. Really, they should be the same thing. And the question is really because the nates will also fall off after it's taken off the tree. So his question is to Rava. Rava says that when you take it off the tree, since it's not there, so it's not considered protection. It is considered protection because the nates, it falls off after I take it off the tree, but it still is arla, so it must be because of a protection. It's because I know it's not food, that we saw before, it's not mitzdaref. Okay. Rava's going to give a new answer. Elam Rava. Rava takes back the old answer, and he says, Heicha amrinan, where do we say Dnasa lahu, that it becomes for it, Shomar lapri, a protection for the fruit. Here goes a new answer. Heicha de'isei, where it is there. Sounds so far very familiar. B'shas gemar peir, at the time that the food is ripe. Gemar means the completion, the end. The time of the food is ripe. So if it's there when the fruit is ripe, then it was going to be arla. It's going to be considered a shomer, and hence arla. But hai kafris, this kafrisin, this flower bud of the caper bush, let's say b'shas gemar peiri. It's not there before. It's not there at the time that the fruit is. At the time that the fruit is ripe. So really, the difference is not when you take it off the tree, because both of them are not there when you take it off the tree. However, after the fruit ripens on the tree, the kafris is not there, and the nate shel rimain is still there on the tree, and that little bit of extra time is what considers it. In other words, the entire process of the development of the fruit, if it's there the whole time of the development of the fruit, then it's considered a shomar lapri. And because the nates is there the entire process of the development of the fruit, it is a shomar lapri, and hence it's arla. But however, the kafrisin are not there for the whole development of the fruit, and therefore they're not considered a shomar lapri, not arla. The Gemara now says, really? It has to be there the whole time of the development of the fruit in order for it to be arla? 1 second. Aini. Is this really so? I'm not sure if I should put a question mark here. Yeah, let's do a question mark. Aini, is it so? V'ha amar Rav Nachman, and it's in yellow, so it's a question. Amar Rabba Baravua, Rabba Bar Avua says, which means Rav Nachman says in the name of Rabba Bar Avua, which I believe is his father-in-law, Hani Misachli. These misachli is a sort of a husk of a date. We translate it as the calyx. What it is the lower part of the flower, the green part on the flower, right underneath the petals of arla. That are the date tree is under 3 years old. Asirei, it is forbidden. Why? Hayel v'nasu shemel aperi, since it becomes a protection for the fruit. Now the Gemara says, "V'shomer laperi emas havi." When is it a protection for the fruit? Emas havi means when. When is it a protection for the fruit? Bekufra, when it is very young. V'kakari le'shomer laperi, and nevertheless, ka means that the next word is a present tense. V'kakari le, and nevertheless it's being called kari le shomer laperi. Nevertheless it's being called a protection for the fruit, even though it's only there at the very beginning. That means. I posed this question wrong. The question is that it really has to be there the whole time of the development of the fruit in order for it to be a shomer. That's not so. Misachli is arla. Let's put in here. Misachli, which is from a date. Let's make that longer. Is arla. Even though it's the misachli are only there at an early stage of the development. So, okay, the answer in green, Rav Nachman, we quoted before Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman savala Rab Yosef. Rab Nachman holds like Rab Yosef. What the Gemara is going to answer is, don't ask a question from Rav Nachman because no one agrees with this. The Tanan, and it was taught in the Mishnah, Rab Yosef says, Smadar Aser, the early stage of a grape is forbidden because of arla. Smadar is an early stage of a grape, is aser. Mipnei shehu peri, because it's considered a fruit. That means that Rab Yossi holds that early stages are considered a fruit already. So therefore, the fact that misachli is considered a shomer peri, that's because at those early stages of the development of the date was already considered a fruit. Upligi Rabbanan aleh, but the Rabbanan argue on Rab Yosef and hold that that it's not considered a fruit at those early stages, and hence it's not considered a shomer laperi unless it would be on the fruit at a much later stage as well. Where we're left with right here is that misachli is arla only according to Rab Yossi or Rab Nachman, but not according to the Rabbanan. So don't ask a question from this. Don't ask a question from misachli. Don't ask a question from the pomegranate, because the pomegranate is on the fruit until the fruit develops, but the kafrisin are not, and hence the kafrisin is not arla. It's not a shomer laperi.